do this. Next case is case 16365, Darren Valley, 390 Old Hopog Road, Smithtown location, northeast corner of Old Hopog Road and Veterans Memorial Highway, Smithtown. Property zone R21. Request variance to reduce the minimum front yard from 50 feet to 45 for an existing 80 square foot roof over. Reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 75 feet to 31, which I think is incorrect. I think there was a variance for that. I think it's 40 or 42 to 31.
It's, well, the existing was what, 75, they were
Yeah,
saying?
you got a variance. The builder got a variance for how?
Because the deck only comes 14 feet out, so I don't
Okay,
think
let me just, it's rear setback, we'll say from 42 or 40 to 31, and reduce side yard setback from 16 feet to 15 feet for an existing 392 square foot rear deck. And your name, please.
Darren Favale,
And your address?
390 Old Hopog Road, Smithtown, New York, 11787.
Okay. Will you raise your right hand, please?
Yes.
You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. All right, you want to tell us why you're here, please?
Yes, the front yard, the roof over, the old roof over that was on there, the header used to show, and it was really pretty ugly, so I wanted to hide the header and extended the roof over to do that. And that's why, that's the difference in footage. And it, much more aesthetically pleasing to the eye, as you can see in the pictures, and plus the whole front of the house is redone.
Is this a high range?
Yes, like,
And that's why you have the wood deck on the second floor?
yes,
It comes out of your kitchen?
it comes out of the dining room.
Dining room.
Dining room,
Okay.
yes. And there's no neighbor to the, there's only one neighbor on the west side of the house. There's no neighbor to the east, I mean, to the west side of the house.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Planning? Okay. Gentlemen? Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to be heard on this application? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Leslie moved in second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Next case is case J. Nazaro, case 16235.1. J. Nazaro Partnership, location, northwest corner, Terry Road, and New York State 347, Smithtown. Property zone NB and R21. Special exception of the zoning ordinance in order to permit parking in a residential district. Variance to increase the depth of parking into a resident district from 50 feet to 72. Reduce parking buffer in a resident district from 72 to 6. Waive the 10-foot protective planting strip and a 6-foot high stockade fence on district boundary. Reduce building setback to resident district boundary from 50 feet to 8 feet. Reduce parking setback to resident district from 90 feet to 0. Mr. Tramarko?
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tramarko. I represent the applicant. I've submitted the affidavit of posting to Peter Hans. If you will recall, the last time we were here, some of the board members raised some questions with respect to the layout of the proposed application. We did go back to the drawing boards, particularly some of the questions that Mr. Tanzi had, and we also, in conjunction with Peter Hans of the Planning Department, mostly Peter Hans, I should say, we redrew the proposed site plan, And I'd just like to go over the points so that everybody understands what we're trying to do. The variance to decrease the building setback to a residence district, it was from 50 to 8. That's now changed from 50 to 22. And I don't know if you have a copy of, I think you do, of what
Right.
Hans did. I guess that's it. Let me just make sure.
Yeah, Peter said yes.
Okay. So I guess you can follow along. And that 50 to 22 is right along this district boundary line, and you can see it. The buildings were so situated so that now it's 22 feet instead of the request that we had before, which was 8 feet. Decrease the parking setback to a residence district, and I don't know why we had 90 in there, but it should have been 10, and that's to 0, because we've actually gone past this. Because of the special exception requirement, we're going into a residential district. The special exception is for parking, and that's the second, the next variance, which is increase the depth of parking into a residential district. It was before from 50 to 72. Now it's from 50 to 27. And again, you can see it right here. And on your smaller copies, it shows the incursion of 27 feet into the residential district. A variance to reduce the parking buffer in a residential district from 72 to 6, and waive the 10-foot protective planting strip and the 6-foot high fence, because that would be along this NB R10 district boundary line. Obviously, we are required to put a planting buffer and a 6-foot fence, and we will do it outside of where you see the site plan is. We may not be right on the boundary lines. We may keep it in a little bit so that we don't have to destroy a substantial amount of trees. And that's basically what we did, and we hope it's with, well, we know it's with the recommendation of the planning department. Obviously, we need this board's approval. This is the taking line along here, so that's the reason why all these buildings were pulled back. We can, and I've said it before, we could build this building as of right. We would just have to push everything up this way. It really wouldn't make any difference, because if you look, most of this area here on this side of the property, there's a recharge basin. So the closest we are with parking there is 8 feet, and it's not affecting anybody since there is a recharge basin there. And so we ask the board for its favorable consideration. I have our architect here. I have Mr. Nazaro here. If Mr. Nazaro wants to make any further statement, or your architect? Yeah. Okay.
6 is required, but we went to 10.
Okay, where is that then? Yes, over here, there's a requirement of a 6-foot buffer. This is where these two houses are. It's a residential district. I think they're using them commercially, but that doesn't matter. We're required 6, but we gave it 10 on that side.
Okay.
So that's about the best we can do, given the fact that we really can't, unless we encroach upon, yeah, that's where the taking line is. So again, you can see it here. There's really no other way to do it unless we build, and the state eventually takes the property and we get paid for it, and it doesn't make for a nice site. But this, we think, is the best of all worlds, given the situation that we're in. And again, I think the planning department recommends this layout for the board's consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Tramarko, and that 10-foot buffer, we may require planting,
That's fine.
Yeah.
Do it, propose them.
right, okay? Like arborvitae's or whatever. Type 2, I guess, they'll recommend. All right. Planning, anything?
I guess basically, as the board knows, if this application were to be approved, there is another step, and the next step is the Board of Site Plan Review. The Board of Site Plan Review is the detailed-oriented part of the review, where the engineering department's looking at the grading and drainage, the planning department's looking at the architecture, the landscaping, the specifics of what would be planted. At this stage, what we've been trying to do is we understand that they're entitled to a 7,500 square foot building. What granting some of the variances can do is make it a better development. And what we've been trying to do is push the proposed structures away from the residents to the north. The parking in the residence district is almost been eliminated. In fact, one of the requests can be denied without prejudice as it's no longer necessary. Also, the house to the north, it's commercially zoned, but it is a residence, so we are sympathetic to them. And we've been trying to increase that buffer to the largest extent possible. 6 foot is the minimum. 10 feet gives us a lot more room for putting dense double rows of evergreens. Also, the residential portion in the rear, we've substantially increased the natural vegetation in that area. The other thing is, if it is a 7-Eleven, from the next corner over where Mount Pleasant is, they need parking in front of the building. One of the designs only had a single row of, let's say, 8 parking stalls. We felt that wasn't enough, so that's why we have that parking. We feel that we've pushed the buildings as far south as feasibly possible. It only has a 6-foot setback off of the property line. We've also been in contact with New York State DOT as well as the applicant. We want to make sure that if the New York State DOT does a taking here, that the road's not going to end up in the parking lot and we're not going to have parking stalls. The New York State DOT appears to be happy with the elimination. We currently had 4 curb cuts for the mobile station. They're proposing 1 on Terry, 1 on 347. They're also located as far as possible from the intersection, which is in common practice for DOT. So we're basically recommending approval and denial. We are recommending 2 conditions, that if you choose to go forward, that the site be revised to conform with the plan prepared by our office dated March 17th, 2011, and is subject to further approval from the Board of Site Plan Review. Number 2, the parking and drive aisle setback to the north property line shall be increased from 6 feet to a minimum of 10 feet. A 6-foot-high stockade buffer fence built to town specifications shall be installed along the north property line and supplemented with landscaping as required by the Board of Site Plan Review. If you want, I can go through the actual requests themselves. The special exception to permit parking for a business in a residence district, we were recommending approval with conditions. Again, it is a minimal encroachment, primarily near the recharge basin. Variance to reduce the required rear yard from 50 feet to 8. We're saying approved to 22 feet. We've pushed the buildings away from the zoning district line. Variance to reduce the parking setback to the residence district from 10 feet to 0. Approved. That's because the line goes through the parking lot. It's not that we're recommending elimination of a buffer. We would never recommend that adjacent to residences. Variance to modify a special exception standard to extend parking into the residence district from 50 feet to 72. At one time, the parking was crossing over the zoning line 72 feet into that northwest corner. Now, we're recommending denial as that variance is no longer necessary because the furthest that the parking encroaches over the zoning district line is 27 feet. And the last request is to modify the special exception to decrease the buffer from 72 feet to 6. While the recommended plan has a 27-foot encroachment, so that's a reduction from 27 to 6. So we're recommending approval with those two conditions. Thank you.
Gentlemen, any other questions?
I just had a quick comment. I wanted to personally thank Mr. Nazaro. I had gone into planning and met with Peter Hans. I know that the chairwoman had also gone in there. And to me, this is how development should go. It's kind of a give and take with the town, and I think we came up with the best plan possible for this corner. I just wanted to thank him for indulging me.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Okay, is there anyone here that'd like to be heard on this application? Come on up. May I have your name, please?
Yes, ma'am. Michelle Hurtis,
Let's spell your last name.
Huertas. I reside at 5 South Avenue, Smithtown, New York.
Raise your right hand, please.
Yep.
You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. My house is one of these. Forgive me, my perception on Google Maps is not that great. I can assure you that none of these homes operate as businesses, contrary to Mr. Tremarco's statements. I would indulge any of you to come. I'd be happy to show you that. So I'd like that to be stated.
We do visit the sites. so
I
we
know
do.
that, but I just want it clear that there is no commercial activity on any of these sites. They are in fact residences. I appreciate your comments, obviously relative to the New York State DOT. As the board is aware, we have this 347 expansion project going on. My understanding of that project from the town board itself is that there will be no entering and exiting on the highway. So at that point in time, all of this traffic for customers that are coming and going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I'll have the luxury of them in my backyard, and then I'll have the luxury of them in my front yard when they leave. So as far as a change in the neighborhood as a homeowner, there is nothing about this you could sell me on. Secondly, the environmental conditions, as this board is well aware, are large in that area. It's a very high groundwater table. A number of the homes from the side of Terry and South, all the way down beyond Halleck and South, have terrible flooding issues where pumps are constantly going. In addition to that, the sump that's meant to eliminate that from occurring, as I stated at the last meeting, is not properly functioning for a variety of reasons. Most importantly, they have found fuel oil in that sump. The DEC has been there numerous times running tests and gathering samples from what they believe to in fact be residue from the station that they're looking to build on top of. So I don't really know how much sense it makes to any of you to build on top of something that's already creating an issue to the environment. Finally, I'd like to say, as a resident, I don't really know how many 7-Elevens and banks the town of Smithtown needs. It's a bank on the opposite corner of Terry Road, and you could throw a rock and hit the other 7-Eleven. So if Smithtown's policy is to saturate the community with the same business over and over on every corner, don't really know how many residents you'll actually have wanting to continue to live here. So I believe all of your criteria for opposing this seem overwhelming, and I ask that you carefully consider all of those options.
Thank you
you.
so much. Anyone else? All right, come up, please. Is there anyone else going to speak in the audience? Okay. May I
Last-
have your name, please?
Last man standing. Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Agnes. I reside at 3 South Avenue in
All right.
Smithtown.
Spell your last name.
Agnes.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I do. Speaking to back up to my neighbor Michelle, I've been here in front of the planning committee numerous times. We've had certain issues that I've looked at across the street. I actually am one of the houses in this picture. We were commenting before on the fact that my, oh, look, the names are up there even. That's great. That the fact of how close we are here. I do realize that they've been attempting to make a change here. I think my concern, like I said, with what Michelle had said, the entrance and exit coming off 347, if that does close, and the only way to get in and out of said space would be off of Terry Road. Across the street where they have built the Walmart, there was an issue, Walgreens, I'm sorry, there was an issue when individuals were coming out as far as not making a left onto Terry Road. The sign mysteriously has disappeared now, but you got people that would make a right, go down, and make the turnaround at the corner of South Avenue and Terry Road, which is approximately up here. We have issues from Avalon across the street where the individuals coming down in the morning know that there is a no right on red, so they've now realized that you can cut down South Avenue heading west off Terry Road and make a left onto Halleck, which then intersects out onto 347. My concern here is twofold. Number one, if in fact this is open down here on the bottom, and you might have individuals for whatever reason that come to visit this, the traffic can be well backed up on Terry Road at any point in the day. My concern is that I now have two roads that lead back up into the resident. And if you're going back up towards Middle Country Road or want to go back north up Terry Road, you're not going to come out, and if you don't want to fight traffic here, if it's backed up, and you know you can come out and then shoot through here, now you're going through the residential neighborhood. And then the flip side is if they close this and you have that entrance and exit, if you are able, now you have this closed off, and people, how are they? They're going to come out, make the right, wait for the light, or you're going to have people in the area that know that I don't have to wait for the light. There's no right on red. So if I'm coming out, this is closed, coming out because I'm heading west, if I can sit for the light, or if I can get out and swing around and cut the light off, I will. So you have, a bunch of different issues here, and the environment as well. Like Michelle said, we have had groundwater issues. We've been here many a nights with people far worse than we've had down in the Lake Ronkonkoma area. But, in our area there, myself included at that particular location, I bought the location knowing where it was in relation to Terry Road, and in relation to 347. I've obviously see what's going to happen with the DOT and expanding 347. I am more concerned with the fact of my neighborhood as it is right now and getting additional cars into it. I also am concerned a little bit about the 7-Eleven at night, 24-hour establishment. I'm concerned about, me especially being in this house here and hearing where my bedroom is here, the proximity to this, to hearing the possible thumping stereos at what's the noise ordinance that anybody's going to follow for the kids that are hanging out in the 7-Eleven parking lot because it's open 24 hours a day. It serves beer, it serves cigarettes, it serves soda, it serves all the stuff that the kids are going to thrive on that they might possibly hang out there. Had it be, it could be any other 24-hour establishment. Dunkin' Donuts could be open 24 hours and you sure won't have a couple of kids hanging out because they're drinking coffee. So my concern here is that besides the traffic is what I'm going to have as far as the hangout spot and the thumping stereos, and is there going to be a noise ordinance and is somebody going to be following it? I mean, these are the obviously questions that come up as a homeowner. So I'm just asking the planning board and the zoning board, just, think about this and think about they've done, I appreciate what they've done with the shrubbery and the stockade fence and what they're talking about putting that buffer up. I appreciate that, especially I would imagine the residents here, all right, they are would be very appreciative, because when I saw this come out, I was like, wow, that's much closer than I thought it would be. So for me, I think it's, it's appreciative, but just think about the overall, because there's definitely going to be other factors that are going to be contributing to this. Thank you.
Please.
Just in response to a couple,
I need your name, please,
James Nazaro,
and your address, James.
8 Saxon Avenue, Bayshore, New York.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. You swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do. On the issue in reference to the environment, the New York State DEC has put a closure on the site as far as remediation goes, and the town of Smithtown's DEW has given a negative deck. In reference to the curb cut on 347, we have been in contact with this plan with Ms. Karen Taylor at the DOT, and she has corresponded to us in writing that they are in approval of this site, this proposal with the curb cut on 347 as well as Terry Road, subject to final plans being submitted.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second. Moved in second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. That concludes our hearings for the night. Thank you so much.